Yo, what's going on? I hope you're doing well. Great to see you again. Today I've got in front of me the Peak synth. It's definitely my favorite synth that I own, and I don't use it enough, which is exactly why I have it out here today. I've been thinking about this patch that I've wanted to make in order to make sort of dreamy sounding chords. So I was thinking we could do that today. I also have the SP out. That way, once we have a patch finished, we can try to make something out of it. So let's just get right into it. So the whole idea of this patch that I want to make is that when I press down a note, I want it to start a little bit higher than that actual note and slowly fade into the note that I'm looking for. That way, if we're playing chords, it sounds a little lo-fi, a little dreamy. It starts higher and then kind of settles in. I'm currently on an initialized patch, so right now it's just going to have a sawtooth sound. I do actually want to start with a sawtooth for the first oscillator, but then to give a bit more of a warm sound, I'm going to add in the second oscillator as well, and then I'll make that a triangle wave. And then lastly, let's add in that third oscillator. We'll do a sawtooth with that as well, but then I'm actually going to raise the pitch of that, and then I'll make sure it's not too loud. Okay, that's a good place to start. So now, because what we want to do is when we play the note, we want that note to fall into the note we're playing. We're definitely going to want to use the mod envelopes for that, and we're going to want to have the envelopes modulate the pitch of our three oscillators. So I'm going to go to our mod matrix here. In slot 1, I do want the destination to be oscillators 1 through 3 pitch. I'll usually change the depth prior to changing what is doing the oscillation. That way we can just hear at its most severe, we'll know exactly what that's going to sound like. And because we want the pitch to fall after we play the note, we're going to want the depth to be negative. I'll start off there at -13, but as you're going through, where you started at versus where you finished at is exactly what's going to happen when you play the note. So I'll just do that manually and we'll get a bit of a sense of what that's going to sound like. Right now it kind of sounds like a lot, but I think it'll work well, so let's keep going with it. So now that we've changed the depth, we want to change what is going to be doing the modulation. So I'll go to the mod envelope 2. I'm going to pick 2 for a specific reason, and we'll get to that later, but I'll pick mod envelope 2 to do that modulation. So now let's go into that envelope. I'll always say both of those because I don't know which one's right, and see if we can change that attack and get a good speed and a good amount out of this envelope. Let's do it. And as you hear right now, as we raise the pitch, the note is falling, and then after it gets to -13, it jumps right back up. So in order to stop that from happening, we want to raise the sustain, and we'll put that all the way up to 100. So now the next thing I have to consider with this patch is when I'm pressing a note, it's starting at the note that I'm pressing and then lowering to -13. Meaning if I play a C, as soon as I hit the key, it's going to be starting at C, but the mod envelope is making that go lower, and we don't know exactly what note that is. So what we'll have to do is actually tune to ensure that once we get to that lowest point, it's going to be the note that we want. And now what I'm going to do is change the pitch of each of the oscillators using this coarse knob in order to counteract the depth of what we have in the mod matrix. So I'll put this back up to 0, just so I can hear what a C should sound like. And now I'll go back to -13. So it should be around 1 for the current of each of the 3 oscillators. Let's hear that. That sounds a lot like a C to me. So now what we can do is put this back to mod envelope 2. We still have that effect, but now once it gets to that lowest point, it's actually the note that we're playing. Because I'm trying to get a bit of a dreamy-ish feel out of this, I'm going to detune the second and third oscillators a little bit. So let's take this fine and just move it down a little bit. Maybe to -5. -10, that sounds good. Let's do -12 on this one, -10 on that one. So I like where this is going so far, but I'd like this patch to have a little bit more movement. Right now it sounds really stagnant. So let's add another slot into our mod matrix, and I'm going to have one of the LFOs affect the pitch of oscillator 1. That way if we're playing a long chord, it won't just be sitting at the same note. We'll hear a little bit of variation. When you modulate the pitch of just one oscillator as compared to the other two, you sometimes hear them counteracting each other, and it can cause some interesting sounds. So let's just do oscillator 1, and let's play with the depth of that. One thing you might notice is that so far in designing this patch, I haven't touched the filter. I try to wait as long as possible to change the filter on a patch because I find that if you turn down the filter, the sound is going to be better, no matter what. So if you can do as much as you can prior to that in order to get a sound that you're looking for, once you do turn down that filter, it's going to make it sound that much better, but it forces you to try to find other ways to get the sound that you want prior to doing that. So the next thing I want to do to make this patch sound a little bit more grungy is to use noise as the modulator. In this patch, I'm going to add another page to our mod matrix. We'll make the modulator noise, which basically just means it uses the waveform of noise in order to modulate whatever you like it to. And I'll make the destination the frequency. Filter frequency. So I'll add depth to this in a second, but one thing I will have to do is lower the filter in order to actually hear this interacting, because since it's turned up all the way right now, if I add plus to this, we won't hear anything. So let's turn the frequency down a little bit. And now let's add depth into this modulation. As you can hear when I turn it up really high, it just sounds like you're almost putting static into the sound. So we'll keep it really light. Maybe +5. And now that we've started to incorporate the filter into this sound, the next thing I'm going to want to do is have another mod envelope control the filter frequency. And that's the reason I used mod envelope 2 when we modulated the pitch, because by default, we can have mod envelope 1 affect the filter frequency. So I'll go to mod envelope 1, I'll turn this up to have it affect the filter, and now we can just play around with the attack on this as well. It'll sound nice that the filter will be closing at the same time the pitch is going down in our patch. It will just sound like it works really well together. But the reason I like to use two different envelopes for the filter as well as whatever else you're modulating is when you can have them happen at different rates, it gives a little bit more of an interesting sound. So let's see what we can do. Now that we're so far into this patch, I'm going to start playing chords rather than a single note. It'll just sound a little bit nicer. I think this patch is starting to sound pretty nice. I think that the pitch is dropping a little bit too slow. So let's raise the attack on that or lower the attack on that, and it will just happen a little bit faster. Okay, I think this sound is in a really great spot. Last thing I'm going to do for this is add in some effects. Similar to what I said with the filter, is I try to wait as long as possible before I add the filter and turn down the filter in a patch. Same thing with the effects, because the effects will make it sound better, there's no question. So the longer you can wait to add those things in, the more you'll be forcing yourself to find other ways to get your patch to where you want it to be, rather than just adding reverb or adding something else. But let's add reverb. Okay, Okay, I think this patch is sounding really cool, so let's record it into the SP and let's see if we can make a beat with it. I'm thinking we can do some sort of house vibe with it, so let's record it in and then we'll see what we can do. Let's do it. I recorded a really long chord into the SP, that way we have a lot to work with and can pitch it up if we want to and still have a lot of space there, or we can change the envelope on the SP and still have a lot of space there as well. So I'm going to put away the peak and now let's see what we can do with the chord we created on the SP. Let's do it. So now that we have those drums laid down, I want to make a few different notes out of our chord. I'm going to copy and paste the chord onto separate pads and then change the pitch that way. The reason I like to do that on the SP rather than playing different notes through the peak is because we added LFOs, let's say, we have movement in the sound, and by pitching up and down the note, those movements are going to change speed. So it's really just a stylized choice that I like to make because I like the sound of samples. I like the sound of how you can hear it changing speed and you can hear that it's a sample. So that's really just a style, but let's do that. The other thing I'm going to do is I want the note that we recorded with the falling pitch to be the main note with that falling pitch. The ones that I copy over, I'm going to take out those first few seconds so that we just have that single note and that single chord. I'll show you what I mean. So here's the original chord that we recorded in. I'm going to copy that onto a new pad. And now I'm going to change the start point so it doesn't include that note fall. And I'm going to truncate that. And now what I'm going to do so it doesn't just start so abruptly is I'm going to affect the envelope and turn the attack up a little bit. Perfect. And now we can find a new note that goes with our original chord, but it won't have that fall at the beginning. So let's go to the pitch and turn that up a little bit. This pattern's sounding pretty cool. Let's add some bass in. I'm going to use the sound off of my bass sample pack. Make sure you download it if you haven't already. It's totally free and you can find that at my website. Okay, I think that wraps it up for this beat. I hope this video gave a good sense of sort of how to go about building patches, and I hope you just had some fun hanging out. We really just put this beat together. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and make sure to sub if you want to see more videos like this one. Appreciate you so much for hanging out as always. Thank you for stopping by. I love you so much. Peace.